It was a time for reflection on Monday morning as men, women, and children moved away from the reveling to take a spiritual approach to the emancipation celebrations. The sunrise service took place at the Central Administration Building's breezeway and was interspersed with several items of special music, all keeping to the theme of physical and spiritual freedom. Guest speaker at this year's event, Reverend Tommy L. Mims of Tennessee, USA, as he reflected on slavery, said that people of color are a resilient people, having survived the worst type of slavery in the world. Reverend Mims added that despite what they endured, God empowered them, and they are still here today.
We are a resilient people, and there have not been a people in the history of the world any more resilient than people of color. We have survived the worst form of slavery ever been in the history of man. I think the reason it's so is because every other form of history, they left families intact. But the design of slavery in our experience was that the fathers were taken from the mothers and the children were snatched from their arms and sold from plantation to plantation. But in spite of all they heaped upon us, God empowered us, and we are still here to talk about it. Praise His holy name. We serve a mighty God.
The Reverend began to reflect upon some of his own personal recollections of slavery growing up, such as not being able to go to the movies on certain days because he was black. However, the minister reminded Monday's gathering that he was simply reflecting because God had brought them a long way since then.
I reflected upon my time growing up in a little town called Bay Minette, Alabama, during Jim Crow segregation era. And I remember toilets in our town being labeled on one side white only, and on the other side colored only. And I remember as an 8-year-old boy, I still can remember peeing on myself because the toilet marked colored only was locked and I could not go into the white only restroom. Somebody better hear me here. Oh, but I remember being told if I was walking down the street and I met a white woman, that I had to cross over to the other side and keep my head down while I walked. I remember being able to go to the movies only on Saturday afternoon when it was simply colored time. Are y'all with me? I reflected upon my time as a 13-year-old serving as president of our youth chapter of the Mobile chapter of the NAACP, fighting for change. I remember dogs being sicked on us. I remember water hoses being turned on us. But I was just reflecting how far God had brought us.
Event organizer and head of the Virgin Islands Heritage Committee, Pastor Melvin Turnbull, said that it is time for Africans to begin to write their own history. And he said it is important to preserve that history as many of the inventions and accomplishments of Africans are being attributed to other races.